how are you all? I am hoping you're all well. I have been to school today, taught some year 10s about some drawing quadratic graphs, and so now I'm back home and I've got the new time of 11 o'clock to allow me to do the teaching. That'll be this week. I think next week we'll go back to 10 o'clock, and then 3 weeks time when I'm back in again, I'll be doing slightly later again just to accommodate me going into school. So hopefully that's all understood, and you've got the timetable that's on the Facebook group. I'll put it on the YouTube channel as well. We're going to be doing some telling the time today. Now, I fully understand there might be some year 6 who've joined and gone, but I can already tell the time. That's okay. You don't need to watch the video. You don't need to stay here and things if you feel like I don't want to. You might decide to stay here and just watch Mr. Harris doing some teaching. You might decide to stay and watch the video and just practice. But we've also got some year 3s, 4s, 5s as well. And I've still got some year 10s and 11s who struggle with telling the time. And it's just because they didn't have lessons like this where they practiced and made sure they could do it. This lesson is for those people who want to get a bit more help with telling the time. And I'm going to go through it and try and make it as understandable as possible. Okay, so we're going to do that today, and let's get straight on with it. Okay, just before I go straight into the studio or the whiteboard where I'm going to be doing some stuff on telling the time, just some good mornings to Josh, just today. Sophie's not here, just Josh. Good morning to Alvi, good morning to Aaron and Jessica, good morning Harriet, and anyone else who joins, either live or later, good morning to you, or afternoon, or wherever you are in the world, good evening, or even good night. So we have here a blank clock. It is a very nice clock. It's a beautiful fancy clock. It has a dot in the middle because it's got some missing hands. So very, very quickly, let's remind ourselves that we need, I'm going to have slightly thicker lines today. We are going to have always a long hand and a short hand. So I'm going to start off with, it is currently 11 o'clock. Now the reason I know it's currently 11 o'clock is because my big hand is at the top. When the big hand is at the top, it tells us that it is an o'clock. When you see the big hand at the top, you then just read off where the little hand is and decide what it's pointing to. That will tell you what o'clock it is. We then have to just think, is it morning, is it afternoon, to say whether we put AM or PM. We're still in the morning, so it's 11 o'clock AM or 11 o'clock in the morning. If I wanted to change it to 10 o'clock, the big hand still stays pointing at the top, and the only thing that would change would be the small hand, which would change maybe to 9 o'clock. So the o'clocks, which is where we start, year 1, 2, 3, the o'clocks are the small hand, and I haven't maybe made that small enough, is where the small hand points when the big hand points to the top. I deal with this in quarters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this clock down into quarters, because the art of telling the time normally we go to the nearest quarter of an hour. You can do other things. It's also worth noting, if you learn your 5 times table, that we got 5, 10, 15, 20. Every number is worth 5 minutes. 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and we don't normally say 60 because we put 0, because at the top it starts at 0 again. And this is because there's 60 minutes an hour. This comes from, it used to be that the system of counting used to be a hexadecimal system based on base 60, rather than what we use now, which is a decimal system, which is base 10. So let's say we want to find out what this time is saying. This time is saying it's got the big hand here. And because I've got a black background, what I've decided to do, actually, is my hands, I'm going to make big blue hands so they stand out a bit better. So this is the big, I know what would make sense. Use the highlighter, Mr. Harris. If you use the highlighter, there's the big hand. We can still see what it's over the top. There's the big hand. and here's the small hand. Now, the big hand is pointing at the 3. And what we have to remember is that the big hand could point at the 3 for quarter past. The big hand can point at the top for o'clock. The big hand can point at the bottom for half past. And to the left for quarter to. More on that in a second. For quarter past, we look at where it went past most recently. I'm not sure I like using these highlighters because although it's nice that it goes over the top, it does make this weird shape at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the highlighters. We're going to go back to our colour that I was using. Oh, I don't want to get rid of that. Doo-doo-doo. Doesn't like it, does it? Oh, there we go. We're going to go back to here. So, if I want to do quarter past 2, I'm going to have the big hand at the quarter past. Oh, what are you doing there? And then the quarter past 2. But because it's gone a little bit, this is one of the things that is more difficult. The small hand won't point exactly at the 2. It will be just past the 2. Because it's moved a little bit in that quarter of an hour. It will have moved just past the 2, which is reminding us that it's quarter past 2. The little hand is always telling us what the o'clock is. This is quarter past 2. If I then go to half past, with the big hand, this would be, if we're going to do 2 again, it's going to be even further. It's actually going to be halfway between there and there. But we still say half past 2 because it's the most recent one that the hand went past. Imagine that's an arrow and that's an arrow. This would be half past 2. Okay. Alvi, this lesson is for everyone who's learning. Different people have different things. Good morning, Summer. Different people have different things they're working on. Good morning, Tom and Tilly. Some people find time telling easy, some people don't. We should never really just say things are easy, because if other people find it hard, it can actually make them feel like they're not very good, but that's not the case. It's only easy once you know how to do it. Until then, we have to keep practicing. We've also got quarter 2, but the difference is we stop saying, because the little hand would point here, we stop saying quarter past 2, half past 2. Once you say quarter 2, we look at what it's going to be next, not where it's just been. So this is quarter to 3, because we've done quarter past 2, half past 2, quarter to 3. Always looking at the big hand first to tell us whether it's o'clock, quarter past, half past, and quarter 2. Now the next thing you might want to remember is, as well as all of these, you can also use the minutes. So the minutes would be the reason I've put around the outside, and for the pasts we're fine. If we go 5 past with the big hand, 10 past, quarter past, so we normally don't say 15 past, we'd say quarter, which is why I've just done that, 20 past, 25 past, and half past. But once we get to there, we stop saying past. We start looking to what's going to come next. So when we get to 25-2, we are instead going to go here, although it's 35, and you could call this time 2:35. So you'd be right if you said 2:35. But you could instead say this is 25 minutes to 3. 20 to 3. Quarter to 3. 10 to 3. 5 to 3. So actually we do 5, 10, quarter, 20, 25, half, 25, 20, quarter, 10, 5, back to the start again. We don't normally use the minutes, but you can. So there's choices there for you. With that in mind, I can do a random time now. Now, the first thing we're going to do, the rules I've given you today are, number 1, big hand. So the big hand is saying 10, 2 or 50. I'll accept either of those. So we're either going to go 10, 2 or 50. And then the little hand tells us we're nearly at 6. So we can either call it 550 or we can call it 10, 2, 6. So we've got 550 or 10, 2, 6. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm just checking some questions to see if there's any questions. So we've got 550 or 10 to 6. Either of those is fine. Okay. So I know some of you will be finding this very easy, and I don't apologise for that, because we need to remember that everyone's got different abilities, everyone's at different standards, and it's important that if people want to do some telling the time, then they have the chance to do so. So hopefully no one's offended by the fact that I've done some telling the time with people today. In terms of practicing it, I've put a link in the description below. What you need to then therefore do is just go through and try and work out. Remember, step 1 is the big hand. Step 2 is the little hand. Always thinking, am I going to or past? So when I give a new time, for example, long hand and short hand, put an arrow on just to help us. The big hand says we are at 10 past. So 10 past, and it's just gone past 10. So we would say 10 past 10. Or you can write 10, 10. Debbie's asking a good question. I forget who Debbie is there with. Debbie is Summer. Good morning, Summer. I don't like when people, not when people, because it's not you that I don't like. I don't like it when we have to worry about exams. It doesn't seem right to me that we have to worry about exams, because exams are so artificial. However, I understand your question of like, will we ask for either? Now, it might say ask it in words. It might say write your answer in numbers. I think both these answers would be acceptable unless the question says write your answer in words, or unless the question says write your answer as numbers. You're not going to get marked wrong for either of those. But today's lesson's not really about an exam. It's more about being able to tell the time, be able to wear a watch and know what it's saying. It's about being able to look at your watch and go, okay, big hand is telling me whether it's past or to. Is it nearly at the next hour, or is it past the first hour? And the little hand is telling me which hours we're talking about, because there are 24 in a day. But that's an excellent question. Now, I know today's been a short lesson. It's because it's 15 minutes. I wanted to give everyone a chance to do it at telling the time. We've got more lessons planned for later in the week. The primary lessons has one on Wednesday and one on Friday. Hopefully this has been useful. I'm happy to answer any questions. I understand if it's been easy for people. I do get that. But, like I keep saying, there might be some year 3s or 4s who this has been really helpful to. And I would never want people to feel that they are embarrassed to ask. That's why I politely ask people not to put things in the chat on any of my videos saying, oh, this is easy. Because it's not about necessarily just your own feelings about things. It's about how we can make sure everyone feels included and everyone feels welcome. Have a wonderful day. Go away and practice your telling the time. Go away and practice any of the other worksheets you've got. I have going to go now. I'm still waiting for a few entries on the pasta Taskmaster, so I will do another Taskmaster on Wednesday. I've been Mr. Harris. You haven't. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.